as I understand it, the large-scale commercial zone would allow uses there that might generate a significant amount of traffic. And I think it's inappropriate to have that across from the school. And I think it's also inappropriate if you are aware Thomas Road and goes across to Lounsbury, there. There's a lot of bicycles that go across there, and the line of sight is not great. There's a steep hill coming down from the west. So having the potential for cars coming out and turning in front of you on Thomas Road, or as you're trying to go across 79 there, I think is a dangerous situation. So I would urge you not to include that bit in the large scale commercial. And beyond that, I would once again say, I so appreciate what you guys are doing, and I respect your efforts enormously. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to privilege of the floor this evening?
Renee Farrell.
I see one, Renee Farrell.
Oops. Oh, shoot. I just remuted you. Okay, you're good.
Good
Yes.
evening, everyone. Okay. Could you please turn off your sound? Okay, that's better. I just wanted to I spoke last week about my interest in the area of the area beyond Slaterville, traveling west. I'm sorry, east, in relationship to Gaggle. And, I'm not going to actually comment about that, but I did want to comment about the conversation about Thomas Road and Route 79. And I wanted, not Thomas, Landon Road and Route 79. I just wanted to, for the record, state that that is the corner where there was huge uproar by not only our citizens of Caroline, but also many of the surrounding nearby areas in the town of Dryden, who were pretty adamant about not having commercial development at that particular site. I believe Tom Barber is the one that pointed out that that is a pretty vulnerable water area. And I haven't looked at the map closely, but perhaps Bill or one of you could investigate that. The other thing is, I believe there were traffic studies done on that particular corner. And so I just was kind of like shaking my head as to why, other than the fact that one neighbor actually put forth a request. I mean, we have a lot of neighbors all over this Caroline town. And, if you're going to, pay attention to one, you need to, then perhaps others can write in and specifically ask for certain specific targeted areas. So I just wanted to caution you that was what I look at as a red flag area in regards to what has previously happened. And maybe that doesn't make a difference at this point. Maybe something shifted that I don't know of, which very could well be. But I just wanted to say that I would really recommend that you look at that carefully, especially water quality testing, and I believe traffic testing, which was already done on that corner. And I believe it's a pretty residential area. And I'll just add one quick thing, which is I kind of did a 1 mile radius of the area between Thomas and Snyder Hill Road. And I did notice, Snyder Hill Road and Bessemer. And I counted more than 100 residential homes in the immediate area flanking Route 79 and like maybe going a half a mile in each way. And that was just a rough guesstimate in driving through in the winter. And so I don't know, I would just pay attention to that if I were you. Thanks.
Thank you, Renee. Anyone else could speak to privilege of the floor this evening? Yes.
How's everyone?
Good. Hi.
Good. Hi.
Could you identify yourself, please?
My name's Judy Galagosi. I wrote some stuff down.
Okay,
As a new resident in the area, it's upsetting to me to witness personal attacks against members of our community and shared misinformation on both sides of the zoning aisle. In the interest of moving forward and getting back to the table regarding zoning issues, both sides must feel heard and respected. And I think that this is a really good time to build a bridge. I have a suggestion. I think it would be really helpful to have 3 additional liaisons added to the zoning commission. Is that a laugh?
I don't know.
Okay, so my reasoning for this is not for making zoning decisions, but to help with communication. And I think to have somebody representing zoning, somebody representing non-zoning, and somebody impartial to help with the communication gap that is happening. It feels very much as an outsider that these agendas have become personal rather than impartial, and it's problematic. By having additional liaisons to mediate the differences in the zoning plan to help come to an agreement, compromising where necessary, then you have the voice of the town, of the people. And I feel like a lot of it's getting lost. I think there are valid issues across the board. Is the town of Caroline receiving money, grants, or otherwise for the riparian overlays?
The what?
Riparian overlays.
For the mapping,
Particularly related to,
creeks and streams?
right. For the addition of the riparian buffers around the overlays.
No.
Is that the end of your,
Nope.
no, okay.
Does anyone on the zoning commission own land adjacent to stream or creek?
I do.
I do.
We don't generally respond in these sessions, but I think you sent me an email that I
I
opened this
did.
morning. Yeah,
Have community members directly affected by the overlay with creek and stream been contacted to discuss what zoning may mean for their property and their property rights? Have you actually spoken to the people that this particular change in the zoning mapping how it will affect them? Have there been any outreach whatsoever? Education, outreach, anything?
when we finish, I will
Okay.
try to respond to everyone.
Has it been discussed how we may incentivize the environmental protections of our waterways rather than putting the zone burden of protection solely on property owners? And my last point is the town of Caroline and its residents who approve of the extensive mapping overlays willing to pay or offer a property tax credit to property owners, as other municipalities have done, for losing the right to develop their lands and being required to maintain the waterways?
Thank you. Thank you. I did get an email from you when I opened my email this morning that I spent the entire day in a board meeting, so I have not responded. And I will try to respond to that. I heard what you said. I can say for myself, yes, I have waterways on my property and I have no idea what other people have. We've not discussed our own situations, and I think we're all trying not to think about this in terms of our own property. Because we think that would be inappropriate. As far as your idea that the 3 liaisons, I think that's really up to the town board who appointed us and asked us to do this job. So I'm sure that the people on the town board that were here this evening will consider that. And I will get back to you about the rest of the, and I'll send it out to the rest of the board members. If I don't fall down from having now been in, I think by the end of the evening, 9 hours of board meetings today. So if I start bleeding from my ears, that's why, okay? Thank you very much for coming and talking about this. Is there anyone else? Seeing none, we will go on to the meeting. Let me get my agenda up. So it's the approval of the minutes of September 27th that have been sent out. I made the spelling correction, but man, that far. recommended, I had misspelled Lounsbury in it with that. Would someone like to move the minutes? Thank you. Any comments?
Yeah, I had asked that my statement got read, so it would be part of the minutes, the last meeting. And it didn't happen, and I was just,
Not on the 27th.
okay.
You're meeting about the 16th? I think that was the
That
last
was the
meeting.
last meeting that
And
was
you did put
canceled,
that in,
that was canceled, yes.
I think Bruce is referring to the letter about the alternate public meeting spot, and he wanted that read at the beginning of the last meeting. Am I right, Bruce?
Yeah,
And I have no objection with that being included in the minutes if that's what you want. It indeed
Oh,
didn't happen to
okay,
get
okay.
read.
I wasn't sure what you were talking about, but I
Yeah.
hadn't heard that.
yeah, I wanted it,
So you
so that it
wanted,
was part of the
okay,
record,
so
what I
what you
wanted.
wanted was the,
My email basically, did like that.
okay, and the town's policy. So the town has so that you're talking about the town's policy about public meetings now?
It was my whole email. I
Okay.
just asked her if it would be read so that it became record. And I got
Well, I think
clarification on policy after that. and I found it.
okay, I think I can bring that up and do that right now. But I will do it after we approve these minutes.
Fine.
So approving the minutes of September 27th. Anything else? All in favor of approving those minutes, please say aye. Okay.
Aye.
Thank you. I think, Bruce, I'm not finding it immediately. I will do that
Yeah,
at next week.
No problem, I just,
Okay. Oh, I did find it, I think.
or save your time, do it later, no big deal.
No, it's okay. We have to do it one way or another. My response to Bill's mail of 9/29, that's the one you started. I'm sure the town.
No,
supervisor-
no, that was the one before that, so,
Okay, forget it. I'll
Yeah.
find it and I will check to make sure with you that it is the right one.
okay,
Check with this. Okay,
thank you.
if they don't write it down, it will go away. Okay, so the town council report, Tim Murray,
Good evening, everyone.
good evening.
I want to express on behalf of the board my appreciation to the zoning commission for organizing your meetings in order to meet the conditions and spirit of our town law concerning wireless participation. Thanks especially tonight, I guess, to Bill, who's out there in the dark, maintaining his post. The town board will meet tomorrow night for the October, for the October agenda meeting at 7 o'clock in the very space where you are located. And that's all I have to report. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Our next topic of conversation is about commercial areas on Route 79. And so I will respond to, just mention to both Renee and Ellen. One of the reasons we started talking more about commercial areas on Route 79 is we had gotten in the public meetings that we held a lot of comment and also in public hearings about needing that people feeling that there should be more space on Route 79 dedicated to commercial. And so we have looked at several areas. One, the Thomas Road Lounsbury intersection, another being down near Bessemer, and recently we have looked at as well at east, what I would call East Claytonville. Also, we have agreed that the Caroline Hamlet should be recognized as a hamlet and therefore has the same uses in the uses table as Caroline Center. And and we've agreed on the borders of that area as well. So with that, let's talk about several of these areas again. And
Landon Road also.
Yes, the land, I guess I was including that with the Beesmer area. So let's start, going from west to east. And I would say, and I know that Michelle also, had written something today about having looked at the zoning in the town of Dryden area, which is adjacent to our western border. So I guess I'll start with Michelle. I'm gonna comment about that area, and then I'll go to Bill. Michelle?
Well, I know, I just happened to look to see what Dryden had done because I travel that area quite frequently. And it occurred to me, it is really all residential. And a few comments have been made about, well, this is close to Ithaca. This, it's the plan of the county that this will be a commercial area. Things like that, which not necessarily makes sense to me. And so I just looked at Dryden, and actually Dryden has zoned that area as residential. And so I think it's appropriate to just keep that area as like Beesimer. I would probably get rid of that one plot that's in ag, but just make the whole thing Beesimer. And then I know last time we talked about maybe having a section of that be sort of like central Brooktondale, which is a little bit more commercial. I'm on the fence about that. I'm happy to hear other comments. I just think 79 is so busy that I don't think it's got room to have large commercial there. I don't see the justification for it. And I guess that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Michelle. And I think Bill then had his hand raised.
Yeah, I just, I obviously have the maps that I put out. If anyone wants to look at those, I've got them up on my screen. I can share a screen, and I've also got the Dryden, zoning map if you want to look at that. So I was just offering that. And, I will second what Michelle said, as I wrote in my note, when I drove that, I clearly, I think not an area appropriate for a large commercial district. And so I think, for me, it comes down to, do we provide something that has some greater commercial opportunities than the general Beesimer hamlet, which is definitely a residentially focused area as far as that, so the eastern part goes. So, so yeah, I guess that's where I'm at, is that for me, large commercials off the table. And that is a difference, to speak to the speaker who spoke compared to the floor, that the proposal that generated so much concern was a 10,000 square foot building and would have to fit in our large commercial area. So I think that the ideas that we may or may not, because we're not going to consider, we may or may not approve, are for smaller scale businesses in that area than that original proposal from several years ago. But anyway, if you want me to share screen, I'm happy to, but it's up to what folks want.
Why don't you share the screen of the Beesimer and then Landon area, and then we will move further east.
Okay. So why am I not seeing it here? I opened it. Oh, I know why. Let me see. I think I need, yeah, here we go. It's because PowerPoint, or the PDF's now open all in tabs. And I'm an old dog, and the new tricks are coming a little slowly. All right. So this is the eastern section of town that's in question. Roughly, we're talking about from again, Beesimer Road here, Landon Road here, and then heading over towards the Deerfield Lane development. And one of the questions had to do with development of this set of parcels, this little parcel, basically this big parcel here that's to the east of Landon Road. In this particular drawing, I'll show you another one that I don't have that included in a possible area. And then the other section, as Michelle was just mentioning, is that there is an area that we had decided to keep in the ag rural that is here, separating two sections of the Beesimer hamlet, or at least two regions of the town that all have zoning called Beesimer hamlet. So one option that I threw out there, and again, these are just as a starting point discussion. I'm going to go through this one and the next one and then open up, but I'm not necessarily saying this is the greatest thing or anything. There is on the corner of Beesimer and 79, that's where the Livery Plaza building is now, the old livery building. There is right here on the south side of 79, the Ideal storage units, which is quite a large and very commercial looking thing. And yeah, a couple apartment buildings, but they just look like residences. A couple of new houses have gone in. And on the north side of the road, it's definitely very residential. There's essentially like a little hickory trail here with a bunch of houses off it, like a little mini subdivision. And then again, this fairly ag stretch. There's, a barn, fields, and then there is indeed a stream that runs through there. That's this area here. And then to remind everyone, the purple hatching is prime farmland. So, one option would be to say, okay, there is some commercial development in this stretch. We know the landowner up here would like to, is one of the ones who suggested wanting more commercial options. So it would be to take the middle piece and say, okay, not a large commercial district, but something, again, a mixed use hamlet, more like the central part of Brooktondale, where you have maybe 3,000 or 4,000 square foot max building sizes, in that. So that's one possibility. And I put a couple dashed lines here, whether this farm gets included or not, whether you go across the road. Ernie has mentioned that usually both sides of a road are zoned similarly. So that would be taking several other residences. Again, there's nothing, the center of Brooktondale is mostly residential. So there's nothing wrong with necessarily mixing sort of small commercial and residential necessarily, but this is mostly a residential area. So there's that one idea. I'm going to skip down to this map. So this is a different variation on that same theme, where a little more attention to the particular request is made. And so I said, would we want to include some of this field in a possible commercial district? Again, not with a large commercial size, but with something restricted of perhaps some sort of depth. Ernie has raised a question about depth off the road more for the eastern part of the town. And I think that's a worthwhile question. But I retain, again, these sort of farm fields and this question of whether this gets included or not. So those are two different ideas, mix and match. That was my sort of sketching.
Okay. Would anyone like to offer one of those as a motion and see if we get a second to that?
I'd like to talk first if I could.
It goes against all of my Robert's Rules of Order, but I'm gonna let it happen. Go ahead. I'm suffering inside here. So,
Okay, well, I was just gonna say that we need to remember that months and months ago, when I first confronted the tax department, they told me point blank, the main commercial corridor for New York from the town of Caroline is Route 79. I liked the second idea because I was confronted by Mr. Miller, and he was talking to me and telling me about why he did what he did, that when he was confronted for a commercial building, that he took his neighbors in thoughts in turn, which would have been that middle section that we're going to change, and he was moving it all the way over to where the billboard is over there, which would be the far right on that, which is, if
Yeah,
you look, there's no houses across from it, there's no houses behind it. So I'm kind of in favor of that second one, just because that's open space, so it could be commercial. Just a thought.
so you're offering that as a motion?
No, I'll let somebody else do that.
Well, I'll make a comment if I don't think it's-
Okay,
the comment is that I would be quite concerned about the portion of red outline. I think that shows up on both the maps. That is at the intersection of Landon and 79 on the northwest and southwest corners. Precisely because one of the comments that was made earlier, and privilege of touring, you can see clearly on the map, is that so much of that is water resource area. I think Gene and the other one, the creek runs through there. It's a fairly steep sided creek. It would be, quite affected by, parking lot runoff or erosion. And I just don't think that's appropriate for us to be suggesting that that should be anything other than residential in terms of the impact on water resources.
Where's the creek?
it's,
So it's that chunk of green with.
Yeah, the creek, I mean, this looks at the water resources overlay here, right? This is the riparian corridor.
Yeah. So it's a bunch of parcels to the west of Landon Road on both the north and the south side of 79.
Right.
It's currently green with blue hatching with red outlining. It just seems to me totally inappropriate, for that to be in anything other than residential.
Okay. Anyone else have any comments about this area? No one wants to offer a motion for this area. Hearing none, I'm gonna move east. Bill, can you put up the area near Thomas and again?
Actually, I don't have Thomas and Lounsbury,
Okay, let's go to the
because
south.
we sort of settled that. I thought we were just working on these other two.
Okay, so let's move, this is now the East Sladeville, is that what this is? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so explain what the people are looking at.
All right, and I'll zoom in just a little bit. So, so this is Route 79. We're now east of Sladeville Springs. I've labeled Larchwood Farms, because a lot of us sort of know that as a landmark. And the gaggle and also the concrete and all the other 7 businesses that he has are all right sort of in this area. Again, purple hatching is prime farmland, and slashes is the water resources overlay. So in this area, you can sort of see because they're sort of oblongs, these aren't riparian zones, these are wetlands. On the south side of the road, there is indeed relatively small amount of prime farmland and almost essentially no riparian zones. This here, let me go down one more picture. So yeah, so this is like a cornfield typically. This looks like this year, at least it's a hay field. But that's been in corn most years that I'm aware of. But there's some edge here and the rest of this is wooded. So anyway, so one possibility, I was reluctant to draw a box that went onto the north side of Route 79 because first off, because of all the wetlands, and second off, because indeed of some of the prime farmland here. But again, it's up to the zoning commission to decide what the highest priorities are, whether there would be some other chunk that would take out some of this. But again, there's the wetland creeping in. So to me, the south side of the road seemed the safest in terms of something that was developable. And this is in particular is the area where Ernie was raising the question about depth, and something we can talk about as a group.
Okay. So let's talk about this area. Anyone have any comments about it? I'm not going to even insist on a motion.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I went up there today and I was kind of wondering why you didn't go all the way to that hedgerow in that field, but I see it's because it's prime farmland.
Got it.
And my other question was where you jog over and up and then back, like Ernie was saying, I was wondering why you wouldn't have made that a straight line and just made those deeper units.
Yeah, I think we could. I mean, I did it in part. Let's see, it's, originally I drew a line over here and then I looked at the other map and oh my gosh, there's a hedgerow back, at the edge of the woods. So I moved this line back and I just didn't bother to, happen to do those. I'm not seeing other than, I don't know what this is here. It looks like a stream, but it doesn't show up on the map as such. So I was a little wondering what was going on this deep in the parcel. But yeah, that's certainly a possibility.
I'm just gonna make one general comment, which is, I think that our zoning boundaries are really, yeah, I recognize that we're, trying to preserve the farmlands and the wetlands and all of these things, but those are covered under other regulations in the zoning regulation and other state laws as well. And so, drawing our lines around those things in order to, when we're not respecting an existing lot line or something, seems to me to be not necessary, that, they will be protected by other things other than what zone they are in. So, So I think that, we need not be beholden to that, not against recognizing that that's a good reason to stop one zone on this property as opposed to that property, but splitting properties with lines around supposed prime farmland, for instance, it seems not necessary. To this end, I think, this all raises a big question. Up to this point in our deliberations, we've largely been looking at zones as being drawn around the existing way properties are used. That we are not proposing that new areas be more commercially developed than they are in fact. All of the regulation will result in less opportunity for commercial development. And so, when we start to look at, this area, for instance, over here to the east of Sladeville, and starting to draw, think about using this as commercial, as a more heavily commercialized area. We should be thinking about this in terms of, in no zoning, this could easily become a heavily commercialized area. There's nothing to prevent that. And so, in thinking about it that way, maybe it is appropriate to kind of say, okay, there are some areas in town which are related to, major transportation corridor, which we know is important aspect of many commercial operations. Can we take areas that are not heavily residential, like the Beesmer area, and start to say, okay, here's some parts of the town which we can say, yeah, you can do what you want to do. So I'm kind of in favor of this. I don't know that this is the perfect outline of it. I follow a lot of Bill's reasoning. I don't know why it wouldn't extend further east or further west, because we can't see, the entire map and kind of look at this very carefully. But it just kind of throwing this out there. Do we need to open our eyes up to the future as opposed to just trying to preserve what we have today?
I'm gonna comment. I agree with you, Bernie. Bernie. I think that this is a very good area to consider for commercial. I think the reason for that it is, and I like that Bill is drawing somewhat deeper line marks now, is I think the idea that commercial has to be spread out one deep all the way along a corridor is very passive. I think a lot of places now are developing where there's one road cut in and then there's a bunch of development inside. And that prevents a lot of road cuts and it stops the traffic problems. So I think a deeper lot can be very effective. And I also wanted to comment that Larchwood Farms is likely to develop into something, but it appears to be an agricultural project, and therefore it can do, if it's an agricultural project, it can do what it wants on the agricultural land. So I am very much in favor of considering this site slightly larger. I think we should all go look at it this time, and then perhaps next week we can, unless anyone wants to move a particular site now with the lines, and then maybe next week we will consider it. Does that seem reasonable to people? I see Michelle's hand.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I really disagree with including Larchwood Farms, which I guess, Bill hasn't, but that's agricultural now, prime farmland. I don't see the need for,
No,
I actually,
I don't think I was saying exactly that. I don't think we need to cross the road.
Yeah, I actually don't think we need that much commercial, but I will, you know, I'm
The
not,
interesting thing about this commercial is there's a fair amount of wetland close to the road, but if you went deeper, you could have commercial back there and you go in on a driveway and it's there, and you just have a sign near the road and
yeah.
it works. So.
Yeah,
that-
I mean, I've driven around there a lot. It just seems agricultural to me, but, you know, I'm not, I guess I don't feel strongly enough to, you know, disagree, but, certainly, I guess I don't see why it has to go with the new line that Bill's drawn. I would probably make it, shorter, but maybe as deep as in other words, I wouldn't go that far east.
Okay,
Probably keep it at around the gaggle, but go deep.
okay, this is what I think. I would ask all of you to go drive that area, look at it. And somebody come back next week with an actual motion that makes me so happy.
All right, I'm gonna speak, I cannot figure out how to raise my hand while sharing my screen. So I'm just gonna,
You have to do this.
sorry
Okay.
about that. I could probably, I mean, maybe I could stand in my head too. I don't know. But the thing that occurs to me, and I don't, you know, again, I'm not sure how I'm in the end about all of this, but is this an area in which we need any extra expertise in addition to Nan? I'm certainly interested to hear Nan's. I mean, I feel so out of my depth in trying to somehow predict or ascertain or come up with an area that would be good for significant commercial development. It's one thing, the sort of things we've been doing, you know, because it is only minor extensions on what's there.
Mhm.
Is this the right spot in town? I don't know. Is any business really going to want to come there? I don't know. Is it too far from Ithaca? I don't know. You know, obviously there's also the landowners will be the ones who eventually decide to develop or not develop. And just the fact that we say it's allowed doesn't mean it's going to happen.
Right.
But I just didn't know if there was a way to get, or if, you know, Nan already had some pithy words of wisdom, you know, on this kind of thing of sort of like, you know, make it and they will come sort of, you know, thing we're trying here. So
One thing that I will point out is there is a tremendous amount of commuter traffic from the Broome County and Tioga County area that comes up Route 79 to go to Cornell. There is no grocery store between the PNC and the Big M, which is in Whitney Point. There's no grocery store anywhere along that Route 79 corridor. I think, as I look, I mean, people who are closer in the Bessemer area, that's less than a 10-mile drive to get to Ithaca. But people who are living on the eastern side of Caroline and then into Tioga and then into Broome, they're just, it's a grocery desert. And so the concept of having more commercial area in that area for not only for groceries, but for things that people need is not a bad idea. And I think if you drive by the gas station here in Sladeville, it is extremely busy all the time. You very seldom go there and you can just drive up to a pump. It's an extremely busy gas station. So I think you see that it is a commercial corridor and it's a commuting corridor. So that's my point there. Sure.
Bill, I'm curious why you didn't, begin your area farther to the west, you know, like, kind of even adjacent to the current boundary of the proposed Sladeville hamlet. You know, like, so, like, where the rest area would be, there, not on the road, but on the south side of 79, but started, closer to the boundary of the hamlet of Sladeville as proposed, and then extend east, not quite as far as we have now. I'm just wondering why you stopped at that boundary of the way.
excellent question, Barb. Basically because based on, you know, again, the privilege of the floor last meeting and essentially sort of the charge that Jean gave, I was looking at the gaggle of the Larchwood Farms area. I think you raised an excellent point, and I have not looked at it, so I'm not going to say it's good or bad. I have no info on it, so I guess ignorance is what I would claim.
Okay, so let's all of us go out there. I'm happy to, you know, let's talk with each other about this a little bit on email this week and come back.
Yeah, could we have a map?
Oh,
We could
and Nan raised her hand, by the way.
Just,
Oh, man, yes, we can. ask-
And Bruce, what do you mean by a map?
well, just a bigger map.
So this
know
is
what we're looking
simply,
at.
yeah, so if you
Sure.
go, Nan and Rick have provided us with this map of the whole town. All I did was zoom in and then, make a screen capture. So you've got the whole map. But I know that PDFs might be hard for you to look at. But that's all it is. We do have this map already. And if it would help you, I could send you a piece that's the piece to the west of here.
Yeah, the other thing is, I don't know if it makes any difference at all, but I was kind of wondering, like, the end of the West Sladeville on the east side, how far is the Caroline line? And if you look at Beesmer, I know the Caroline line isn't that far down the road, and I was just wondering, according to, if we decide these are commercial areas, is it in the middle of Caroline, or is it
I'll try to go and
right
look
and
at that.
left? And
All right, I am opening up, let's see if this is gonna work. If I click, guys, do you guys all see the whole Caroline map now?
Yes.
Yep.
All right. I have to. Push this over there. All right, so. All right, so now to the north, as you can see, the town line is pretty far away in this area. Here's Sladeville Springs. Here's that rest area we're looking at. Here's Larchwood Farms and, it's this area. So yeah, I mean, basically all of this, none of this is a wetlands area other than these little things we were looking at already. Again, the north side, totally different picture.
right.
And then as far as going over to the town boundary, 79 goes quite a long way actually before it exits the town. But there's the, our new Caroline hamlet.
It's just back from that road right there, whatever that road is, it's to the left of that where that green is. I believe that.
Here,
No.
are you talking about this green? Yeah,
Yeah, right there, that green line.
yeah. So that's Speed Hill Road, I think, right there, right?
That's the pull-off up there, and that's where the Caroline Town line is.
No, the Caroline Town Road is
No.
all, is all.
Okay. There's the Caroline Town line.
Mhm.
Really?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's at the border.
Caroline
The
Town.
sign's way back there.
Well, the-
Oh, that Carol, right. There's a Tim told us the funny story that the town of Ithaca put that sign up announcing Ithaca, and the town took umbrage, and so it was changed to Caroline, even though Caroline begins well away from there.
Okay, because I was gonna say, because the sign
It was like, it's not Ithaca for God's sake. it's Caroline.
is.
However,
Well,
it's now been lost into this.
Right, when I know it's the other side of Lake Chris Fells,
Right.
that way.
Yeah.
So I was
So
just kind of
it's not-
wondering,
It's probably, the area that we just looked at is maybe 35 to 40% along that line. Somewhere in that area. Okay. So I'm going to leave the Route 79 development now. We're gonna come back next week with some proposal about that area. And if there's anything else anyone wants to add in those other two areas we discussed, next week would be the good time to do it. Nan, what would you
So
like to say?
earlier, Nan had her hand up. I don't know, do you still want to speak, Nan?
Nan, do you have anything you want to say?
No, I just wanted to, we've talked about it before. I just wanted to remind everybody that, when Barb brought up, why does it not go closer to the Sladeville hamlet, which certainly, could be evaluated, but it's that kind of nodal pattern along major roads that in rural areas is what is generally, we try and work towards, not spread out long distances along the major corridor, but nodal. So there might be, so then when you're, from a character point of view, you drive from a hamlet to agriculture to a more developed area to agriculture. So there may be something, some benefit for having it as a more concentrated node, so it's not spread out across the whole length of Route 79.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so we're now going to go on to looking at Article 7. And Nan, can you put up the Google Doc, I'm assuming, would be the best thing?
let me get back to share my screen. All right, let me get down there. Sorry for the scrolling. We're still in Article 5. 7. Okay, we're at Article 7.
Which begins on the end of page 37 if people are looking.
Can you enlarge it?
Oh, yes. Oh, let's see. I gotta figure out where,
Just
oh, here we go, over here. Is that big enough?
much better. Yeah.
Okay,
So this is site plan review is what we're discussing, and supplementary standards.
Can I ask, is this the Google Docs or is this the Word?
this is the Google Doc.
Because I don't see, I made comments today. I don't see them on there, but
I don't think.
Okay, I thought that this was the Google Doc we were using. This one Jean commented on the other day.
What's his title?
Yeah, this is it. I just don't see any of them. I think the way you put it up, you're not showing the comments.
Hmm.
No, the comments are here.
Okay. There are. Beginning.
Do you have I mean, is there a different, maybe I didn't have, this was the link that I had been using for this document.
I think that's exactly the correct one.
Zoning Article 5 on in progress. All in mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay, I just thought there were other things highlighted and stuff that I'm seeing. I'm not seeing anything really highlighted. I thought there were.
Can you reference a
Never mind.
specific item there?
Oh, wait, maybe this was, oh, sorry. This hadn't gotten changed. That's what the problem is. This is actually 6. We had already gone through all of that.
Yes.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So that was just labeled wrong. So sorry, I wasn't in the right spot.
You should be at the bottom of page 37, right?
Okay,
Oh.
Oh,
Well, no wonder.
Much better.
I'm up
yeah.
at 94, so
194. What?
I'm just 94.
Oh.
This is the old Word doc.
Right.
Google that. does, you know.
Right there. Okay, so let us begin.
That looks familiar now. Okay.
Okay, sorry about that.
So.
Mislabeling.
So this is a reader's aid. Nan, I think you made some comments here. About why certain uses. This is just the reader's aid.
Yeah,
I don't think there are many changes. We just removed a couple of lines and made a few word changes. Fine.
Ernie asked, is abbreviated review only for the water overlay? So in order to look at that, we'd have to go back to the use table and see what was given the abbreviated site plan review in the use table. So I think there were some other more larger scale agricultural business uses that might have gotten an ASPR, but that would be determined, what gets the abbreviated would be determined through the use table.
Right, but the way this was written, it sounded as if only,
Right.
only water resources, flooding were part of it, so.
Because of the last sentence.
Yeah, just, they find they're located within the town of Carolina Water Resource and Flooding Overlay. It's like, well, it applies to, all sorts of projects as well as the town of Carolina Water Resources and Flooding.
Okay, so we need to change that sentence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just read very well.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's an important point that again, doing anything in the water resource overlay triggers abbreviated site plan review. But as Nan's pointed out, other projects do too, and Ernie's entirely right. So we need to.
Okay,
So if I have it right, those are the two things that happen.
okay, so I will suggest a sentence in there and stick it in tomorrow and see what people think. Section 7.1, there was nothing in.
I was just
Section,
wondering about the in harmony with surrounding uses. Is that something we would leave in there? I mean, we're getting,
Where are you reading that?
where are you reading it? Where,
first paragraph under 7.1, I don't know if it's the same as yours.
it's in the third line.
Yep.
It says to ensure that land development occurs in harmony with surrounding uses and the town's comprehensive plan.
Yes.
This is-
I mean, that is what site plan is supposed to do.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that.
I have a question.
Okay,
Well, I got confused about what I guess basically got confused about site plan review because sometimes, like in this case, site plan is capitalized, but review is not. Sometimes none of them are capitalized. Sometimes it's just site plan review. And so I started getting confused about what we're talking about, because are we talking about generic site plan reviews that would include updated site plan review? Or are you talking about full site plan review? So for me, it's got to be consistent, like how it's capitalized. In other words, if you go to the abbreviated site plan review, that section starts abbreviated site plan review, parentheses, APR. This one just starts with site plan review. And so I don't know if we're referring to the same site plan review that's in the definitions. So then I went back to see what the definition was. And, site plan review is one thing that's defined.
Right.
I
Yeah,
just got confused about what this referred to, like, what kind of.
Nan, I think my sense is
Consistent.
you capitalize things that are defined, is that right?
Well, that's kind of what you guys started with some of your other local laws. It's not, there's no required convention for that. I personally think that the capitalization is confusing. It's, if you were to look at like General Code Publisher and all of the laws that are published on that, it does not normally have, the convention is not normally to have every word that's in the definition capitalized. If that's what you want to do, then we have to go back to the beginning and then cross-check everything and make sure that all of our conventions are, so every word that's in the definition section is capitalized. I agree that it goes back and forth. Usually things like review board, zoning board of appeals, town board, those things are capitalized because it's referring to an entity. But I think you guys need to decide what convention you want, and then we stick to it. I don't think we need to have all of these capitalized, but if that's the convention you want, we have to go back and fix all of those.
Okay,
Well, it's just that abbreviated site plan review is consistently capitalized. And so that's why I got confused about what.
Yeah, well, the abbreviated site plan has got its own section and it's kind of self-contained in its own section. So this is referring to, and I think that the reason that this was in the reader's aid box was because the abbreviated site plan review is under the same Article 7. It's just kind of a subset of site plan review.
okay, Ernie,
I agree totally with Michelle. What I find to be really just difficult here is that you've got site capitalized, plan capitalized, and then review not capitalized. So it's just totally confusing. So capitalized review and other places where the same thing happens, make it all capitalized. The site plan review process in the next sentence should be, I think, again, capitalized, because we're talking about site plan review in this section. And so, if it's not about site plan review, then none of it's capitalized.
Okay,
Got it?
yeah, I agree. I'm gonna try to write up a few conventions about this. I also find it kind of disturbing the development is capitalized everywhere. Because it's
I
not.
mean, I think that because it was originally come from the original site plan law that has that convention of capitalizing words that are in the definition section.
Okay,
So this is holdover from the original site plan review.
So-
A lot of the language is a whole, so what Nan put in the document was what the task force passed or, recommended the town. And a lot of that language was the same language that's in the existing site plan law. The
Okay.
task force only modified certain sections. So the bulk of this text is actually the current site plan law of the town.
Right.
Now, having said that, it's not just the town. I mean, you look at the town of Lansing, look at any of the town laws around here, typically, any term in the definitions is capitalized in definitions and capitalized wherever it's used in the law. That seems to be at least Tompkins County Convention. When I look at my insurance carrier coverage, they define terms and they capitalize in the document because they don't mean what they mean in everyday life. They mean what the insurance company wants them to mean. So
Right.
I don't know for sure what we should do, but we definitely need to decide. If we brought this up like a year, 9 months ago, and I think we kind of decided, it doesn't matter if we capitalize or not. I think it might, and either we don't capitalize in general or we capitalize all defined terms. And that's how I see it. And we should just decide which we're going to do.
I move that we capitalize all defined terms. Somebody want to second that? Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I volunteer to go through this document and do that,
Okay.
okay?
You can do it.
Well, do you want to do that on the Google Doc, or is that just, I don't know if you need to take the time to do that on the Google Doc.
I won't do it on the Google Doc, but we'll do it in the Word doc, and we can do that with search and replace.
That's right.
So, okay. We have decided that, and we are whipping right along like young desires.
Wait, can I just say one more thing?
No, yes.
No, because, I admittedly, I'm not the brightest, candle in the candlestick, but, it took me a while to realize that we're referring to the use table where it says some uses are SPR and some are APR.
Right,
That's what made, I had to read through this for a while to realize that's what was happening. And that was partly because of this capitalization issue. Once I put that together, then I could also have a copy of the use table up and kind of get a feel for like what's going on.
okay,
So, sorry.
that's okay.
And I just wanted to, before we get a little further, to amend a little bit about what Bill said, is that this, if you remember, the review board reviewed the site plan section and they recommended that it go from a 2-step process to a 1-step process. So this reflects the 1-step process. So it's not totally like the task force proposal.
Great. Thank you. Yes, I messed that up. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, that's true. Okay, section 7.1, there was no comments in that I can see. Is there anything that I'm missing?
No, I had a couple comments as far as, but it doesn't make a lot of difference, but some of this, what I consider very fluffy words like the first, under the first paragraph, encourage design that has continuity with design traditions of the town of Caroline. Did we define what design traditions are in the town of Caroline?
We had this discussion when we were back in
Yes,
the other article 4 perhaps.
could be.
And we basically, my recollection is that we basically said, yes, there are design traditions in the town of Caroline, which is, more peaked roofs, there's a lot of clapboard in use, there's windows, not wildly modern looking, but it's only encouraging and not demanding.
guess the general sense was that this intents and purposes is just kind of a general sense of what it is, but it has no tooth to it as far as regulation.
Right.
Now, somebody who's on the review board can go back and say, well, but what it says here,
Right.
but I think that, you know, in fact, you have to recognize that this is just a general hope for how things are gonna go, but it is not part of the regulation. Once it says shall,
Right,
then you gotta start paying attention. So
gotcha.
I agree with you. I would take all that stuff out. Just, but
I guess I have a question for Nan. So, you know, intent and purposes in this language sort of tries to set out the goals and intents of the legislation. So if we then get down to a regulation that totally contradicted one of these intents and purposes, and someone in town challenged it because we said, oh, you have to do X, but they say, wait a minute, but that, you know, would that contradiction, the non-conforming to these intents, give them some legal firepower to challenge something? In other words, indeed, should all of our regulations stem from these, or these really not matter, as Ernie just says?
well, but these stem from our original, you know, the very
Comprehensive plan.
first, yeah, the first article.
Yeah.
You know, so, yeah, of course, anybody needs to.
Well, and I think that the purpose, if you remember from the very beginning, the purpose statements which flow from the policy established in your comprehensive plan, which this is a kind of a sub-purpose statement. I think they're very important because not everything you do and not everything that is applied may be captured with a strict, we already have guidelines versus standards. And I think that this, to me, this spells out the broad, you know, the broad goals. And, you know, I guess I could use the example if someone came to town with and I believe you took out the height, building height. So if someone came to town with a 4-story glassed in structure, and it met everything else, but it didn't meet with the continuity of design traditions because there's no other 4-story glass building in town. You know, I think that's important to recognize that. And unless you want to go back and say, you know, exactly what those design traditions are, like you're not going to have any 4-story glass buildings. So I don't think we can or should tighten this up so that it's a complete box. I think there needs to be some flexibility for both the review board and the applicant to fit things in and for them to know that you're looking for something that fits in a rural community versus a modern, you know, urban neighborhood. I think to me, as a planner, says something, even though you don't have a specific definition of what that is. I mean, we actually do have something that defines character, I believe, in the definitions. So I don't know if that answered your question or not. I mean, I would encourage you to leave this in, but I understand that, you know, this is it can be in the eye of the beholder.
There you go. You got it.
Do you have a question?
No, I was just gonna say, encouraging design that has continuity with the town of Caroline would be just as good if you ask me, but I'm fine with what.
Okay, if you're not offering
Nope.
an amendment, then we're moving on. Man, I'm gonna ask you to go through and point out where there are questions, because I'm having a hard time reading both that and this. So I just can't manage with my glasses tonight.
Yeah, okay. I mean, some of these are just, you know, little changes that we'll fix with numbering and things.
Yeah.
I think. What?
I think that should be Article 5. But I'm not.
Well, actually, yeah, all uses identified in table. It's actually the use table, which was in Article
4.
4.
Okay, yeah.
So this one,
We were gonna have a discussion about the size of the square footage, right?
Right, and you kind of already did have that discussion because you already have that in the dimensions table. So this just unless you want to rediscuss that, and I think you increase the size. So this is for all commercial, yes, so we already have this in the
Right.
use table. I'm not sure you need this at all.
Right.
So I'm a little confused. The use table specifies the maximum commercial building size footprint.
The
as well
dimensions
as-
table does.
Dimensions table, right. The use table specifies what things get SPR.
Right. So if something in the use table says they get SPR, then it doesn't matter what this says, it gets an SPR.
Right. I think the intent here would be, again, the town didn't have a use table before now, right? So that's why this existed.
That's why this
I guess the question I ask now though is, but couldn't there maybe be some structure that doesn't call for SPR in that use table, but someone wants to build a 2,500 square foot thing that maybe ought to go through? I'd have to look at the use table again, I guess.
Yeah, I guess there could be that situation, but the use table is really what governs the review process for all of the uses. So let's say some use is allowed in the use table as an SPR, it gets SPR. If it's a permitted use, I guess there could be a situation where you would have something that's a permitted use that you would want it to go through SPR, but then this number needs to be, I would imagine, I don't know, that's to me confusing that you have one thing here, you're saying one thing here, but you're saying something else in the use table, which, you know, like for offices, all offices go through site plan review, not just those that are over 3,000 square feet.
Right. I,
Okay, I mean, I'm tentatively would move then that we strike this pending at least one of us going through the use table with a fine tooth comb.
And make sure that there's synchrony between
yeah,
these 16 different items and the use. Is that-
Yeah, or in particular, is there any reason to have a size threshold trigger, number one, in this list? Is there any reason to maintain such a trigger or
Well,
not?
this entire list, you know, even wind energy facilities.
Yeah, that would come out because we have that covered.
You know, all this stuff is covered elsewhere in the use table, so
I volunteer to look at this.
don't put it in play.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this was a carryover from when you didn't have a use table.
Yes.
And that's very important in that situation, but now we have a use table that governs what gets site plan review. And, you know, there might be some other things, but I think most of these are, you know, addressed in that use table, and that should govern what review process each use goes through.
Okay,
I got really confused by this. And I guess I'm imagining somebody that hasn't been studying this like we have, just trying to figure out what to do with their property might also be really confused.
Well, that's why the simplest way is to say what you want to allow and how you want to allow it in the use table. So they go to the use table, they say, oh, here's my zoning district. Here's what I want to do. Oh, look, it needs site plan review. And then they go to Article 7 to see what the rules are for site plan review.
I will look at this. I think from reading it that everything is covered, but I will absolutely make sure of that, and I will tell you next week.
And there were some things in here, though, that that are not in the use table that I think I flagged, like this one here.
Meaning what? I'm not
Your
sure.
number.
13, you had originally any proposed land use activities that may negatively affect important agricultural resources. Well, that could be a house, That could be a garage, it could be a driveway, who knows what that is? I just think that that's
I think.
very nebulous
Yeah.
and could get you, I just don't know how you would tell what that is.
So is that, you're saying that's already in the site plan law now? I think.
No, I'm saying that I don't know how you, this is what was recommended from the task force.
Okay.
And I just don't know.
Right, and I'm pretty sure that is in our existing site plan law, and I think you're right. It's probably too nebulous to be useful.
Yeah, I agree. So let's. I will tell you what I think when I go through all of these. Okay.
Okay,
D,
Yeah, on to D. Is there any comments about D? We were just gonna make it the code enforcement officer. So it's all the same. Effect on existing units uses E. I think was fine.
yeah, I was gonna say, we did discuss, like E, the amount of time a place was vacant. And this says 1 year on what I have.
Yeah, any use which could otherwise be subject to this law, which has been discontinued for a period of 1 year or more, shall be subject to review pursuant to the terms of this law before such use is resumed.
Did we agree to stay with 1 year?
I believe we did, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I don't know.
Yes.
No, I don't,
Is this somewhere else?
I think that there's, because I reading it, started to get confused. There's a different clause in later on, which says if a non-conforming use is discontinued for 2 years,
Right.
then the zoning reverts. That's a completely
Yeah.
different thing than this.
Right.
So don't get the two confused, because I know I was starting to get them
Yeah,
confused.
that's,
So we have 2 years in terms of a non-conforming use. This is just says, this is a use that's allowed, but it's been discontinued. Can you just start up again? How soon can you start up again without having to get re-reviewed? And it just says 1 year.
Does anyone have a problem with that?
yeah, I was just wondering if 1 year was too short. Maybe,
Would you suggest 2 years?
Well, I mean, for instance, we just had a pandemic, a lot of restaurants went out of business
Mhm.
for a
2 years.
2 years, I mean. Doesn't seem like very long time.
1 year is not long.
So
I was saying it 2 years.
I was thinking 2 years.
Okay, so Barb has moved that we change that to 2 years. Ernie
Second.
and Bruce are seconding. Any discussion? All in favor? Say aye. Aye.
I
That a need of 2 years. Okay. Section 7.3, site plan consideration. So this is about the review criteria are to provide orderly development and make sure that there's adequate facilities for, water and sewer, et cetera, et cetera. And they are appropriate but not limited to the following general considerations. So
And these are pretty standard. I mean, this is pretty typical language that you see in almost every site plan review law. It's basically the instructions for what the review board needs to look at when they have a project in front of them.
I don't think we had a lot of, I think the only things I did in that section were take out spaces and change some spelling.
Yeah,
So
Where are you at this point?
we are on 40 into 41. Section 7.3, and we're going on to section 7.4, specific standards and considerations, which are the specific standards. The other ones were the kind of just considerations. These are specific. So these are compliance with laws, the comprehensive plan, water quality. They have to comply with Caroline's local law 2 and stormwater management. Plans have to be reviewed by the Tompkins County Department of Health. There's a lot of talk about fertilizers and pesticides and chemicals.
Yeah.
A case.
actually, this one, I'm not sure. I'll have to check on that one. When you have a CAFO, I'm not sure that the farm management plan. I'm not sure you can ask for that. I'll have to check. This came up somewhere else and I seem to remember that there's an issue with getting a single farm's nutrient management plan. I'll have to check on that.
Okay,
Okay.
great. I now know more about CAPOs than I ever really decided that I ever wanted to. So, okay, so we're gonna check on, part C. D is the development shall protect all wetlands, floodplains, and steep slopes from clearing, grading, filling, and construction.
Right, so what's that, that's been highlighted, so what's that comment there?
My note was remove this because it's covered in the water resource overlay,
Yeah, when I,
but you know, it goes into more detail, but we already have adequately covered that. I mean, this, if a commercial development was going through site plan review and there happened to be an overlay on that parcel, they would have to meet the overlay standards. So this might be redundant, at least from the wetlands and the floodplain. The steep slope might be, you know, you might want to keep that in. We already have something elsewhere for steep slopes.
We do. Steep slopes are covered elsewhere.
Under D, that first sentence, the end of the sentence.
I think she's talking about removing all of D. Is that what you're talking about, removing?
Yeah.
so I am okay with that as long as someone then finds and tells me what the steep slopes sections are, because I don't remember them. The wetland stuff I remember pretty well, and the floodplains and all that kind of stuff, but I would like to remind ourselves, if not me, of what we have regarding review for steep slopes.
Okay.
Whether anything would definitely trigger a review for that.
I will check that. It's somewhere, it's in the area of 15%, but I have to find out where.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, I think what we had was something like, okay, 50%, and then if it's above 25%, they have to actually provide a management plan. And
Right.
erosion, you know, it's something
Right.
like that, but I just don't remember the details.
Okay, I will
Right.
find that and I will put it in I'll put it where it is.
I mean, you know, some of just, you can relook at this, but you know, some of these things are different than what we have in the overlay. You know, so for commercial uses, do you want to keep these? I guess this is one thing you need to decide whether you want to keep these for the commercial uses that are going through site plan, or if what we have elsewhere is enough.
I will come back with this and then we make a decision, but I think let's mark all of D at the moment as something that we may remove. How's that? Does that make sense? As being,
Okay, I mean, again, there's no doubt that E has stuff that is not elsewhere, like the bioengineering techniques and stuff like that. Or even avoiding crossing streams and ditches. I don't know if we say that anywhere else.
No,
And
we don't.
And I think that, you know, the 50-foot vegetated buffer along streams and creeks, et cetera, is redundant, actually under, depending if it's perennial or intermittent, but the 50-foot vegetated buffer for a wetland, if it's DEC regulated, yes, because they mandate that. But if it's not DEC regulated, I don't think we put a 50-foot buffer in. So there is stuff here that's different than what we have elsewhere.
I mean, you know, this next one, you know, incorporating green infrastructure, I mean, that's a lot of, you know, could use DEC stormwater chapter 5. It has a whole chapter on green infrastructure.
these are recommendations, right? That's what it says.
Yes, the way it's written are recommended.
It says these following construction methods are recommended to protect water quality. It does not say they are required. How are we feeling about that?
It's probably protected in other places, isn't it? When we
Well,
talk
we have a
about water.
law, which, you know, goes into a lot more depth than all this. So I don't have any problem with leaving it in.
I don't have a problem with leaving it in. I would love to change the word pervious to permeable, just because I think no one uses the word pervious.
impervious really well.
I know, but it's so odd. It's such an odd, can we go permeable? Thank you. Because that's what that pavement is called. Permeable pavement. Right? That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
All right, so I guess what I feel is that we at least ought to be really clear on what is elsewhere and what is here. And so if I feel really extra energetic this week, I will try to put that up in its table or something, but no
Okay.
guarantee.
Well, I think at some point when we get back to looking at the full document as a total. you
Right.
know, And start to do this, we're gonna find things like that. And so if we flag them and just say, you know, check this, we don't have to necessarily parse every sentence of it right now.
Okay, so I'm gonna make a note, Bill, about Dido, and we'll continue. Okay, so water supply,
Yeah,
I think that's fine. Anyone have?
I
any
think,
issues?
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I was just wondering if we could leave out the word unreasonably in the two places, in the first sentence and the last sentence.
It says the proposed development shall have a supply of water adequate for the proposed uses without unreasonably adversely affecting. So you would like to just say without adversely affecting. the-
Yeah, and the same thing in the last sentence,
Okay, so let's get rid of,
unreasonably.
okay,
Is that what you want to do, is get rid of that?
yes, we're getting rid of unreasonable. And will not unreasonably interfere in the last sentence.
Just
It makes
saying,
it stronger, but it also makes it less uchi, just switch.
right.
it.
I
Okay.
think, and
In B, we have something marked, which is about this. I think it's just the names of these things, the recommended standards for waterworks. I think that's all it means, is,
I didn't understand what those were. I mean, are those titles of?
They're documents.
they're
So
books.
I can't tell what the documents
Yeah,
are.
Italicized so that it's clear that
Yeah.
that's.
Yeah,
the
okay,
title.
we will do that. Okay.
Good.
Thanks. Okay, C and D and E here, I think everything was just little.
yeah, it's
things.
Determine.
under E,
Yeah, I was trying to get rid of under E, yes, Bruce?
is 5 and 6 like the same thing? Erosion and sediment control, the proposed development shall control soil erosion during construction and after the project is completed, and shall comply with the Town of Caroline's local law number 207, stormwater management, erosion and sediment control. And then number 6, stormwater runoff. The proposed development shall not result in any increased stormwater runoff. Shall comply with the Town of Caroline's local law number 2, stormwater management, erosion and sediment control.
So I think, Bruce is saying, are these the same thing, or is stormwater runoff very different from erosion and sediment control?
They are two different things.
Okay,
Yes, they are.
We can put them all in the same, we can say
So
stormwater runoff, erosion and sediment control, put it all in one thing.
that's fine. Yep.
Let's leave or leave.
okay. 7.
Uh,
Go
And
ahead.
remind me, I guess Mark or Tim, is there an updated law on one or the other of these areas, either erosion, sediment control, or is it just flood? There was something where there's a new local law in the last couple of years, I thought. Am I misremembering?
Yeah, I think 2007 is. that's
Okay,
The
right.
stormwater.
Quite some time ago.
Yeah,
Okay. Transportation.
So you want to combine these two?
No,
No,
leave them the way they are.
We just wanted.
Oh, okay.
Thing or not, so let's leave them. Transportation, so this is about the a site plan should provide for safe pedestrian, bicycle, blah, blah, blah. Measures. That seemed fine with everyone. Then we have any highways to be dedicated in the town, and someone had brought something up here.
Ernie.
I just think that the town really needs a better descriptor on what is an acceptable road to the town. It's pretty vague. At least what I could find. So I suggested that looking at the town of Lansing's, highway specifications would be the
Right.
starting point.
I started making a list of things that we wanted to tell the town board, and I put that on it.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna make a Google Doc of that so that people can add things to that, because as we're finishing this document up, we may want to give you the thing that says, here are 207 things that you need to do.
That's right.
Could you do those- And please do those soon, yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, and Jean, you might, in your note to the town board, you might want to also mention that the Cornell Local Roads Program has a lot of information for rural highway specifications that are good tools to use.
Okay, I will do that. The guy who used to run that, used to
Yeah.
live here.
That's right.
The guy who wrote those
Lynn Irwin.
those regulations lived right down the road.
Yeah,
Lynn Irwin, right.
Bruce,
Are we on the B yet?
yes.
Okay, I was just wondering, I think we had discussed that once before, but I'm not sure what we came up with. Repairs for not less than 20 years on a road.
Oh, yeah, this is all.
Yeah. And I also I have no recollection about whether by title and fee, I have no recollection of what that means.
So some roads are a road because the town owns it, and some roads are that they have easements over the land. It's just different classification, different types of ownership of the road itself.
Okay, so is that title and fee, is that a thing? Or is it?
A title and fee just means the town owns it.
Okay, so the town owns it is what title and fee means, and by easement is I gave them an easement. Or somebody gave them an easement.
Yeah, I mean, the protect the roadway for 20 years. I'm not sure there is a roadway in New York State that would last 20 years.
Yeah, me either. I think we have to kind of, maybe get rid of that or change that fashion.
Well, I think that they, shall be constructed according to this new town road specification that we're going to have the town make.
Okay, I think that sounds like a good idea, because the 20 years is.
Right.
crazy.
I wish we wouldn't.
Yeah, and could they come do that to my driveway too? That would be good.
We have other wording for laws that may or may not exist, right, or.
Yeah, according to town highway specification.
According to current or any future town highway specifications.
Okay. Good plan. Okay, and the highway system shall be designed with due regard to these various things, and I didn't see a lot of stuff in there about that, so everyone seemed relatively happy. Until we got to lighting, which is number 14.
Bill had a question on this one,
Yeah.
Tim.
Oh, yeah. What did I say?
You're wondering if there should be reference to the
Oh.
2021 flood damage
Yes.
law.
That's the new law I was remembering. So, yeah, I would assume that since that's the current flood law, it should be mentioned here.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll put that in. So that's like local law something of 2021. I can look that up.
Yeah, no, it's on the town website. It's easy to, should be easy.
Can, under stormwater management,
Uh-huh.
I believe it's D. Can we look where it says in the end, adjoining land where appropriate?
Okay.
Who would,
Where are you reading?
under D, under, stormwater management? Or V is stormwater management, then
We're
it's
down for
A, B,
there,
C,
it's,
D. If we skip past it, we D.
What page are you on?
I'm on a completely different document.
Oh,
It says
You
highway,
mean back here?
highways shall be designed to promote and coordinate highway systems when a proposed development.
Okay,
of Undeveloped
right
land.
there.
Its streets shall be laid out to promote suitable future street connections with the adjoining land. And it says where appropriate. Do we need the where appropriate, or can we just say adjoining land?
I think we're appropriate. I mean, the review board will be looking at kind of,
Right,
the future development of the land. And, you want to, you don't want to have this other road coming in on the corner of the land side, and end up in some wetland on the adjacent property or something.
Gotcha.
I think you probably agree.
Okay,
Makes sense.
sounds good.
Okay, so
Sounds like that. So now what are we on?
Nan is bringing us through,
Are you ready to move on?
yes. Flood hazard prevention, I think that's just to put that local law number in,
Yep, I'll add that in.
okay? In 11C, that's the New York State Department of Ag and Markets.
Nice if that was just.
We'll just
So,
write
yeah.
that out. Yes, Deb.
So we'll spell that out.
Yeah, just put a note saying spell out.
Okay. Then we have air quality, which didn't have anything in it. We have sound, which we all pretty much want to shoot ourselves about, but this seems fine. I don't think there are any issues with this part.
Well, and I think you had asked me to, and I don't know if I've done it yet here. Didn't you want the noise that we had elsewhere moved to the site plan section?
You did,
Yes,
yes.
Yeah. So, or yeah, at least something along the lines of, reference to ambient and or XDB, whichever is less, and some intent that the intent is, extreme loud noises should be avoided. We're talking about average noises, yes.
So we're gonna move that, and then we'll move something over there. That sounds great.
Yep.
Okay.
And I'm gonna ask us to pass on 14 right now, because I would, again, I think it needs some looking at. I'm agreeing we're not gonna create something where each zone has its own lighting level, et cetera. That would be its own ordinance. But I want to remind myself of the state of affairs. And what my note here basically says is, I know this language is from like 2000, well, early 2000 teens or something. And when I was even looking at it in 2018, it seemed to be sort of obsolescent. And so it may be that it's fine, or just leave it in. But I'll need this week to look into it.
Okay, so we're gonna pass over 14 at the moment. And we're just gonna highlight it in the color.
I think it has a pretty extensive law. of the books.
Okay, so Bill will come back with us. That lighting that I put in red is really scary. Okay, energy use and greenhouse gas emission. I don't think we have anything on. Then we're going on to, in D here, the owner of the development, once complete, shall conduct third-party building. Bill, I think you had something to say about that. What did you-
Well, a little bit. So, and again, there's some deeper thinking. So, I think Bruce had asked whether this is needed. Ernie has I think a very, cogent comment, what the heck does this mean? So I would need to look at this. I don't know if anybody else really knows. I mean, I think that the idea was, if there was not just every building, but I assume it's a building that is claiming some level of efficiency standard, that then once complete, there would be indeed an energy survey to make sure that it actually meets the performance standards they said they would have. But it's a little vague and unclear popping in here like this. So, but I think that might be the intent, but I don't know if Mark is back yet, but he was involved in 2018 update to site plan in which energy performance standards were the main topic. I was just getting involved that time. So for me, it's kind of fuzzy early baby recollections.
I think you're probably right, Will.
Yeah.
Normally commissioning of a building involves looking at the HVAC systems and whether it's performing to the specifications required in the contract documents or whatever. Commissioning of a energy, if the building is required, it's an incentive because it has is going to perform X number of percentage better than code, then there needs to be some document proof of that, and that's usually a third party commissioning report. But the way this is worded, I wouldn't have a clue.
right.
Looks like Tim wanted to add something.
Tim?
No, I was just going to mention that our new
Yeah.
code officer actually did this as a profession.
Yeah.
And still does it part-time as a profession. So it's a pretty standard practice, but he was working with very large buildings.
So I guess that the bottom line is, does this apply to every structure going through site plan review? Or does it get limited to something, some subset of those? And I think I'd have to read, see
So
how it,
I guess my other question is this in the current site plan review? Law?
I think so.
I don't know. I mean, I think to require this for every building going through site plan review might be a lot.
Okay.
I mean, we certainly would hope people would do, like lead energy and energy efficiency stuff, but this, I don't know, this is for a small building, this might be a lot.
Well, I mean, the energy code is now, even at the
Yeah.
residential level, you're required to blow a load test.
Right.
You've got to show, installation levels are at the levels that were required by all the forms you put out. I mean, there's a lot of safeguards for this. I think it's only as appropriate if asking for something above and beyond the code threshold, which would not otherwise be measurable.
Okay, well, I'm gonna go and look and see what's in the current law, and if it's there, that's fine, I guess, or we can make a suggestion that this is a little.
So I would say anybody that builds a house or builds anything is gonna make sure they're up to-
Okay.
because if you didn't pass this, what would you do?
Right.
Well, this wouldn't be for houses. This is for things that are going through site plan review.
Okay,
But it's still, I mean, you could just say that, just reiterate that it needs to meet the New York State Energy Code.
Right, well, I'm gonna go look and see what's in the thing, and I'll put it in the minutes and let you know.
Yeah, I'm just like skimming through the existing site plan law, and it is different enough that I'm not sure I found the right section. That language is not appearing. There's a whole bunch of stuff on energy there, but not that specific language that I'm seeing right now.
Okay, I will bring that back and let people know. So let's go on to 16. And meanwhile, we'll mark 15 that we want to look at this.
when we're looking at that same section, I apologize, under E, when we say using 20% more insulation,
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
what's all of that?
are we
Yeah.
gonna say you have to go 20% above the standard?
I think that's what, people were trying to say, and someone has said
It says is encouraged.
is in.
Courage is not required.
Okay,
Again, the intent of the revisions made in 2018 were basically to, the energy stretch code was just in development. We weren't going to require that, but the idea was to try to move buildings in a review towards a more energy efficient model. And so there were these words like encourage and, that kind of stuff in there.
Right,
Um,
so these are perhaps from the task force, then,
Yes.
yes, okay.
Tim
So-
got his, Tim raised his.
well, like,
No,
where it says encourage, like the encouraged to use Energy Star certified products. F, that's straight out of the existing 2018 site plan law.
Okay.
I mean, I was gonna say, when you go to 16, I'm pretty positive that was added by the task force.
Okay,
That one stuck out to me quite a bit.
okay. How do people feel about 16? Is that okay?
particularly seen from public roads, I'm not too
Yeah.
fond of that, but I guess it's fine.
Okay, number 17.
Wait.
You had a question on 16?
Yeah, must not block or alter scenic resources, which is capitalized, must be defined somewhere. But those are referencing a document that doesn't really exist.
Right,
So.
I think that gives an awful lot of leeway to the site plan review committee Without having, yeah.
Without having any way substantiated, so, I mean, it's just asking for trouble, I don't know what to do. You know, until we have an officially designated group of scenic resources. I really think this one needs to be couched in some shoulds instead of shalls.
We could make must not block to should. Not block or alter scenic resources, and we could reference that the town, should adopt a scenic resources inventory.
Before you can make language that stronger.
Right.
So I mean, I will, so I mean, we keep coming up with scenic resources and I understand why we're back away from it, but the town in essence did adopt a set of scenic resources because in the NR, the Natural Resources Inventory, that adopts the scenic resources as Tompkins County has developed a document and standards and a set of scenic resources for each town in Tompkins County. So we do actually have a document to refer to, but we have decided not to refer to it because we, for various reasons, don't have a lot of confidence in it. But to say that there is, there is a document and we could refer to it. What we have suggested is the town should supplement what is in the county's scenic resources for Caroline, because it did not seem necessary to us to be a complete or a thorough or even best list. And so, yes, I think we should advise the town to get with it on that. But, we could refer to the Tompkins County inventory if we wanted to.
That's just what a scenic resource might be, what they would include in their set of scenic resources.
Okay, Ernie, I can't hear you.
I guess I'm just asking what anyone might like to suggest as one of the scenic resources that we have on that list. And does anybody have a sense of what needs to be preserved?
I can only think of one, and that's the Pinnacles up on Ball Hill. It's cliff that they say is.
What about if you change it from scenic resources to just visual impacts? So that the design of the development must, not adversely impact, visually impact, then that can be evaluated with a visual impact assessment and photo simulations that would give the review board an idea of what something would look like from different locations.
But any change is going to be a visual impact.
Yeah, so the must thing is really, as they just asked us for trouble.
Yeah, I agree with you back off of mush, because again, we've not done a good job of categorizing important scenic resources, nor, so I totally agree. We should, at this point, we have to soft pedal it, but I don't want to get rid of it entirely because, we'd like to try to preserve good views.
Are you comfortable with should not? Well,
I'm comfortable with should. How about others?
I'll make a motion.
I'm okay with should, but I'm not happy with particularly seen from public roads. Just because.
But the town doesn't really have any right to review scenic resources except from public areas. So that's where scenic resources are identified, from places where the public is. It's not from your living room window. It's from a public road.
Oh, so this is saying that if somebody puts a house up in front of your view, that you can't necessarily raise hell about.
Oh, it says you can. doesn't it?
Well, no, I mean, if you stand on the street and that house is blocking the view, yes. But if it's only blocking the view from your private house, no, is right. Because again, the town has no way to regulate that.
Right.
was there a motion?
What's your motion?
To replace must with shall or should.
Okay,
Second.
okay. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so we've done that. And meanwhile, I have also made the thing about the town on the list of 207 things for town to do. Okay.
I already have that many.
Plant and animal resources. This is a should. But it also then goes on to say, and that are endangered or threatened and shall conserve to the extent possible the habitats of blah, 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 blah.
Good.
Okay, I think that's fine. Number 18, historic, archaeological, and cultural resources. We don't seem to have any comments on it. Architectural and design features, 19, we do,
Yeah,
which are, I can't read them, so, man.
My comment.
Or you mean the comments Ernie
Yeah.
commented on? Didn't we already have this in the design standards? And there is a section of design standards in, I guess that was chapter 6.
Yeah, so again, this I think is holdover from bringing in language that the task force did, because when the task force was doing, I mean, Article 9, I think at some iteration was the design standards.
Right,
Which were a separate thing. But now, because we have a zoning law, the design standards are part of the zoning law earlier. So this reference to Article 9 is incorrect.
Right, it should just say whatever the section is for the design standards that should comply with those.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Michelle commented on whether this is single family homes or, and she did bring up, you know, you're talking about developments, which includes single family homes, but this section is only related to developments that go through site plan review.
Yeah, sorry, that's what I was confused about.
Yeah. So I think that references probably Article 5 is our design standards, because Article 6 was the commercial designs. I guess maybe 6 and 5 was general design standards and 6 is commercial design standards, if I'm remembering right.
Yeah, I think it was 6,
So
but
probably
we'll
6,
check on
but
that.
yeah.
Okay,
And then I think that the rest of this,
Yeah.
is that needed?
no, we can get rid of the rest of that. Okay, so then 20 is buffering existing uses. I don't see anything there. Economic and fiscal impact. Someone inserted on the goals of the comprehensive plan. I think I did. You did? We are actually the same person. 22 is site restoration requirements. We got rid of approximating. Okay. Section 7.5 site plan review process, the general procedures. I think we want to make this the code enforcement officer throughout, right?
Right.
Okay,
Because that's who this is.
okay.
And then we have this, how the site plan review process is summarized as that. So we got the sketch plan, the submission of the site plan application and permit fee, the review board review. We got off the town board review, we put in Tompkins County 239 review is appropriate. A public hearing as appropriate, seeker, and the final decision. Are those the correct steps? Having never done that. No idea.
Yeah, so those were the changes that I made to bring you to a one-step process versus a two-step process.
So in this, there is no town board review then. It's all rests with the review board.
Right. The town, yes, yeah, the town normally doesn't have any involvement with a site plan review, the town board. You're authorizing the review board to do it.
Right.
Legal
I mean, unless there's some, you know, if you want to discuss certain uses that might require town board approval, you know, we don't know which ones those are, you know. I just think that is I mean, talk about making it development difficult to have it go to the review board and the town board. That's a really difficult process.
Yes.
I was just making it clear. I am definitely not suggesting a change.
Okay. Okay.
I thought that the review. Am I wrong? That I thought that when it went to the town board, it was for things like dedication of roads.
I
Like
think-
just very specific.
I thought it was
things.
for dedication.
Yes.
And for things like if you were gonna build a new public if you were gonna build a new town hall or a new highway department and it went to site plan review, it would also go.
No, I think Mark was right, that it had to do with dedication of roads and other spaces to the town.
Right,
Yeah.
and that's in there.
I mean, that is an appropriate thing to do. I mean, the town board would always have that approval. And it, you know, they can decide to accept that or not.
Okay. Okay, so then we go on to the sketch plan and what that is. And 1, which doesn't seem to have any comments, and 2, and 3, and sketch plan materials when they have to get mailed out.
Where are you at this point?
After that list.
7-6? You're
We're on section 7.5.
okay, how about at the top of that first paragraph after 7-6?
General
The
procedures.
second paragraph where it says an application for site plan review shall be submitted at least 45 days before the meeting, and which it is to be considered by the review board. The developer shall submit via email a package. Shouldn't that be able to deliver that package any way he sees fit? Not just email. Just that-
Bruce, where are you looking? I'm sorry, I lost you there.
Give me the section number.
Page 49, towards the top, under,
Oh, here.
3.
under 3, yeah.
For the waiver?
An application for site plan review shall be submitted at least 45 days for the meeting at which it is to be considered by the review board. The developer shall submit via email a package that includes the date, signature. Just wondering if it should be just, does he have to deliver it by email or could
Well,
he deliver
the
it?
question is, do we want to require hard copy, and most municipalities are now
Yep.
doing digital, you know, and
Okay,
the paper stuff goes into garbage cans as soon as
Right.
the project's built. But for record keeping and everything, I think we need to keep digital in there. I don't know that it has to say via email. It could just be submit a package that will include in digital format plus 1 hard copy for each member of the review board.
Okay, which I think it says, right? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
So it's just a little edit to make it turn into a digital copy as well as hard copy.
okay.
All right, so where are in the document?
Yeah,
are we-
I'm still looking to see where you're reading this from.
Sketch plan materials is 49, item 3, second paragraph.
It's,
B.
So item 3.
Oh, there it is.
Graphing for a contour map, it's the paragraph right below that.
It's the sketch plan paragraph,
You're
right?
on-
sketch plan
Yep.
materials shall be used at least 15 days before the time.
Is this what you're, that still doesn't,
It's
Yeah.
not exactly what Bruce
No.
read, but I think just there have been some changes made.
Yeah.
right.
Are you sure that Bruce is reading about the sketch plan and not the actual site plan? Because I know that's where 45 days comes in, is under the site plan submission.
right, yeah.
Well,
Here-
and he was commenting about the requirement for email package.
Right, right. So it can be changed both places, but
Okay,
you know, it says submit in digital form a package.
yeah,
Well, or just later on, just, you know, hard copy and digital.
Well, so maybe what I said was wrong then. Tell Nan what to type where.
I just put in the applicant shall submit digitally a package that includes all those things, plus 1 hard copy for each member of the review. On that page, and when we find it again, I'll make the same change.
Yeah, the other is at the bottom of page 50.
Okay, because I think the digitally covers someone to drop off thumb drive. Okay. Okay, and I will make this change as well here. Digital, okay. Anything else on those pages that we want to change or look at?
So the question about whether or not there is a public hearing, up above it was public hearing in parentheses as appropriate. Where do we actually decide that?
I don't know. What does happen now?
Well, we haven't gotten to the public hearing yet.
Yeah.
I mean, this is still the submittal. I mean, there's a public hearing, there's a checklist of all of the things that they might need to submit, and then the process starts down here.
Right.
All right.
So the stuff that Ernie was just mentioning, is that again about the sketch plan, that there's an optional public hearing at the sketch plan phase?
No, there's not normally a public hearing associated with
That's,
a
I
sketch
didn't, I
plan.
wouldn't have thought so, but that there is, I think we had an optional public hearing in our current site plan. I think you were strongly recommending there be a public hearing. Am I right,
Yes,
Nan?
I strongly recommend that there be a public hearing. I think the community deserves to know what's going through the review board and should be able to be reviewed. If it warrants a site plan review, people should know what's going through and have the opportunity to comment. But the sketch plan is really just a informal meeting between the review board and the applicant to kind of talk about what the project is.
Just to note that at the bottom and like the bottom heading of all the pages now have that weird purple writing. So,
Yeah, I think it got put in the footer instead of in the text.
yeah.
Okay, I will try to figure that out and take it away.
Yeah, I'm kind of lost where we were.
I think, yeah, I will figure that out and I'll get rid of that thing in the footer. I don't
Oh,
know.
here, I think that what you just said goes right here.
Okay,
So we need to go back up to the sketch plan. I think we're just about done with it, but I think that's where we were, was near the bottom of the, the waiver of submission requirements. This is part of sketch plan. That's where we were.
okay.
So, the request the review board waive. Review board is one way.
I mean, yeah, waivers should be requested by the applicant, not,
Yeah.
Not suggested by the planning board or the review board.
Right, right.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with any of the stuff here.
So in a one-step process, it's kind of, when you kind of gotta go to the review board and say, hey, do I really have to do this topographic map? Do I really need to do the wetlands delineation over here, yada, yada, yada? And then they say, well, now we gotta think about that. So now you gotta go to meeting. So it's not clear as the one.
But that's why the sketch plan meeting is very important, to do that up front.
Okay.
Okay, so then we are on to the sketch plan materials, the waiver of submission requirements, the seeker classification, which we got rid of NEPA and or Fonzie, and application requirements, the submit, the permit fee. Someone had made a comment somewhere in here about there might be more things than just a lawyer's fee, other things that we wanted to.
Yeah, that was Nan that pointed that out. Just Nan.
Yeah, okay.
Let's go ahead. In other words, somebody very important suggested that. So let's pay attention to that comment.
Review board use of legal counsel and other expert assistance. That's what we were talking about here, that there may be one other things like an engineer or something other than an engineer or an attorney. And so I made those comments in my list. The site plan checklist. The application for site plan review. And this is where I screwed up and put something somewhere else, but I will fix that tomorrow. Because I see where it is. I can do that where my brain is actually functioning. Page 50, okay. The site plan review process. Oh, it is page 51, thank you, yeah. Okay. So then there's this long list of things, the title, the North Arrow, but everyone seemed to not have a problem with those.
Pretty straightforward.
Okay,
It is pretty straightforward. I will point out that when I did that table that I sent out to you all, I noticed that I think in like abbreviated site plan, existing wells or springs were supposed to be identified, and I don't think anywhere in the site plan review it actually asked for like existing wells. I don't know how important that is. And we have to check my table, but it just seemed to be an odd miss.
it's in E,
Oh, in east, then I'm misremembering what's missing. So, okay.
under 3, existing.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. And I may have just missed it when I was making the list. So great. Okay.
Then 4 is proposed development, including as possible. All these things, this was a question about, I didn't know what this meant, more than 4 feet of what? The contour, is that what that means? Erosion control plans, including, number 4, proposed development, including as appropriate, we're on page
Mhm.
52. I just didn't know what that meant. Erosion control plans, including grading plans of existing, of existing, or
If,
including.
if existing elevations or contours are to be changed more than 4 feet.
Oh, okay, somehow when I read that, I was like, I could not, it just didn't make sense. You're reading of it, maybe it makes sense, thank you, okay, so that's fine. Location and design of outdoor lighting facilities, someone must have marked that.
However, notice that Ernie has a comment about 4 feet, maybe should be 2 feet.
Yeah, I mean, 4 feet is a pretty good cut.
I would agree.
That's almost as tall as I am.
Yeah, you have to break that out, it's gonna be, a 30-foot wide slot, so I think 2 feet. Would be.
We're saying, okay,
I mean, that's my experience,
let's make it 2 feet, let's not make it 12 feet. Okay, I think that makes sense. Okay, M was location and design of outdoor lighting facilities. Did someone mark that?
I said including photometric data. If we're gonna enforce dark sky standards, because we did come up with dark sky standards, then there's gonna be things like, parking lots shall be maximum length of this, step handles, and building elevation, this, signs, that, and so.
Okay.
Basically.
So, and what about, so this means that photometric data, not standards.
Yeah, that.
This is, it says that basically every project going through site plan review has to submit photometric data, which may be appropriate. I'm also warning about language that says that the review board may request photometric data if they feel it important or need it.
That may be better, that may be better,
Including photometric data, comma,
if requested by the board.
No, because the location and design of outdoor lighting facilities should be a definite and only the photometric data if requested. And that comma
and.
doesn't do that.
Photometric data,
Excellent. The extra parenthesis will probably help.
if requested by the review board. Except I can't spell tonight. And sometimes that just doesn't work. No actual spelling involved. Okay, location, size, and design of any proposed signs. Then we go on to the next whole part that has nothing in it that we didn't like.
Well, I had a question about this, predicted energy use and measures to minimize energy use and use of fossil fuels, including energy specifications and ratings of the building's construction and operation. Again, I would look at that and say, what the hell do you want? It just doesn't.
Mhm.
I can say, predicted energy use and measures to minimize energy use of fossil fuels.
You would stop by that,
I guess that I would stop at that point, because it's the rest of this is just kind of, delved into.
okay, so you would get rid of including energy specifications and ratings of the building construction and operation.
Yeah, I mean, just, unless you want to be specific to say, we want to know what your SEER is on the air conditioning and how many BTUs your heaters are, and, what R value you're putting in the ceilings. I mean,
I'm okay with getting that, with that last part, though I'll ask both Ernie and Nan's, in practice, if the review board said, okay, you guys are predicting this much energy use, give us some data or information as to why we should believe you. That leads into the second part. So I'm okay with it being that, upon request, but would they balk at that? Would they then typically provide that information? Do we need to give them any ammunition so they will get it?
What you're asking for is you want some demonstration that the energy use of the building is going to be, minimized to some extent. And so unless, we're going to require something like, the stretch code, this is really kind of asking the developer just to be a nice guy and to use energy efficient stuff when he can, he or she can, but without any kind of specificity, it's really leaving it up to the board to kind of ask for anything they want. So I don't know. I mean, and how would the review boards, react? This is, well, this guy says, well, couldn't use 3 million BTUs a year. Okay, what does that mean? It's meaningless, unless you say, no, another facility like this here uses 12 million BTUs a year. So I guess I understand kind of what the point of that paragraph is, but I don't see how it actually gets done in real life.
So shall we remove that second line, or shall we try to come up with something else?
Again, I'm okay. I can move to strike it. But I just back to, again, remember that the review board can hire consultants. So again, this is not going to be typical, but if there's some particularly large building at which there was some particular concerns about energy use, they could hire a consultant to examine the claims of the builder, right? So the review board doesn't have to have the expertise. They can hire the expertise.
Yeah.
And all I want to make sure is that they are able to get the data they need to feed to the consultant. I just want to make sure that they are enabled to do that by this zoning law.
Right, but I mean, if the building, if the developer is meeting code and is meeting all the other requirements of the whatever laws may abide, why does he now get told he has to predict the energy use and demonstrate ways that he's minimized it? Yeah, it just seems.
Okay, because the town has particular value in minimizing the use of fossil fuels. That's a town value. And I get it about the total energy. All they got to do is meet energy code. But how you meet your energy is of course variable. So I agree with you about the code. So yeah, let's strike the last part. And
You all agreeing to that? Everyone okay? Yes. Okay, I'm getting rid of that. Okay, so that's the rest of, anything else down to X there?
if we want to, I don't know if we want to spell out the seeker stuff, the part 1, the
Okay.
short form and whatever I don't know if we want to spell it out or not, but
I think we
Neat.
should.
okay, full environmental assessment form and short environmental assessment form is Nan can fill in.
Okay. Just make it be at the moment and also that law in the next one. Okay, and then we have additional requirements for site plans. That's me. Let's take my son.
It's getting colder out there, Bill?
Oh, it's actually fine, you know, just starting, but you know, sitting in 50 for 2.5 hours, it starts to seep in, but I'm doing all right.
Okay.
Your paper towels on.
Additional requirements for site plans, to prepare and submit traffic impact analysis, I think we changed in there. Then we have a traffic report. The methodology and sources used to derive existing data and estimations, then we have the site plan review process. Where we are. Made a couple of changes in here, gets rid of public preliminary site plan, this is all about going to the one-step thing. Town board review of proposed public highway or facility dedication, this was where I remember to pick the thing about that. Coming in, authors of dedication, this is the other thing that the town board gets to look at. Coordinated review, which is when you have to do things with like everybody on earth. Required referral, there doesn't seem to be a lot in there that anyone has had any issues with. Disapproval, revocation of site plan approval. We argued about how to spell guarantee, but we like this way. And for some reason, D is in red, but I don't remember why.
Yeah, I think we're down below. Keep scrolling. There we go. I think that's where we are. Is this right?
Yeah. Yeah, we keep going, keep going. Yeah,
Sorry, I lost you there.
we're down in 7, more, yep, more. Yep. More. Yeah, there we are now. If the review board, that part, I don't know why it's in like yellow or what color it's in there. Is there something there that we were unhappy with? What's the note on B?
I think it was the spelling.
Yeah, it looks. to me-
That was that one, but the next down below, the next whole section is in a different color, and that's what Gene's asking about.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I think we're all fine. I don't see a note that is relevant.
On it, and it just says built for format text color.
Okay,
Yeah. I'll make sure that that's all, all of the format stuff we'll fix.
okay. So then we are on to. We got rid of that whole part that's crossed out.
Yeah, because that relates to, I think that was, a written recommendation to the town board.
Right. Okay. And number 4 and section 7.
Well, hold on. Number 4 refers to town board. Is that appropriate? Says town board may waive requirements.
The town board may waive the requirements of this section if they think there's no need for a performance guarantee. Is that how that works?
Have to read where we are.
Yeah,
Yeah. I don't know.
It's the whole thing about a performance guarantee in here.
Well, the whole section, 7.7.11. Talks on performance guarantees, talks about the town board accepting it, so if there's not a role for the whole, this whole area.
Right.
And I think that, this was probably written originally this way so that the town board accepts the performance guarantee that a developer has been required to have. And I'm not sure it has to go to the town board.
I guess I would think it would have to, because that's a financial consideration and no one else would really have the right to do that, would they? I mean, I don't see why the review board would have the right to do that.
Well, but the review board would be the ones that would just say that as a condition of approval, they would have to have a performance guarantee.
Right.
But this is to remove the
Yeah.
performance guarantee.
Well.
I would say that-
A, so in the section A, which is that top full paragraph there. Says this, the second paragraph says the sufficiency of such performance guarantee shall be determined by the town board after consultation with the review board, code enforcement officer, town attorney, and other appropriate. So it seems like this whole section is giving the town board
It's structured that way.
responsibilities and authority with regard to performance guarantees because it's a financial matter.
Right. I wouldn't think it being on review, I wouldn't think we would have the ability to waive a performance guarantee.
I don't think so
Oh,
either.
that's
I'm gonna
okay.
look in the current law and see if it's there, because I think it probably is. So I will read that from the current law and let you guys all know. And I think we are actually almost to the end of this 7 thing. In which case, I might want to, yes, we are. We have like just a tiny bit. Let's finish this and feel accomplished.
You don't already feel confident?
No, I don't. Many days I feel completely unaccomplished. So there is. This is about abbreviated site plan review then, right?
Well, we're in the there's the waiver section,
All right.
7.9, and then we get to abbreviated site plan review, I
Okay,
think.
so in the waiver section, we crossed out that sentence where it says a waiver may be granted, where the review board finds that. And in all cases, no waiver shall be granted unless the review board finds in the course of its minutes, blah, blah, blah. And then in the next thing, we have changed effecting to affecting. And in C, I don't remember, I have no idea why the second sentence got crossed out. Does anyone know? Civil practice law and rules article 7.
Yeah, I think it was because the first sentence says the same thing as the second sentence, because it talks about they may apply to the Supreme Court for a review under Article 78. This is talking about Article 78 again.
Okay,
Yeah.
so then we have the building permit issuance and the effective failure to receive approvals. And what they can do, and then we have this abbreviated site plan review. This has been how it's been established to enhance protection of water resources. We got rid of the 4 forest areas. But we need to do some other things, and we may need to put that in there, right? Because we're gonna go back and look at the use tables and see what we might need to put in there.
Right. So there's a couple comments on the very first part that didn't get read. And Nan commented, the review board gave us some comments on this, and I pointed out that one of the things they wanted was that abbreviated site plan review basically not go through them, but be done by the code enforcement officer. And Ernie and I then had 2 more comments on there. And I think that that's a fundamental question. I actually don't necessarily agree that everything that needs abbreviated site plan review is so cut and dried that it shouldn't be the review board. And I think that that's a basic decision we have to make. Are we going to try to go through here and make it so that it's all code enforcement officer? How does the zoning commission feel about that request from the review board?
I think the review board should have to deal with abbreviated site plan review.
I think so too.
I'm not a review board, I don't
Quite a
think
number of review boards that require that. And I think that's why we have a more people.
I mean, if it was something that was cut and dry, that was a standard, like you have to be 50 feet from a boundary, or you have to have a certain X, Y, or Z, that's a standard that the code enforcement officer can say, yes, you meet the standard, or no, you don't. But when it's a review and there's discretion involved, the code enforcement officer really doesn't have that kind of discretion. That's really empowered with the review board. They have the discretion to look at things and approve it or not approve it. The code enforcement officer, if it meets the standards, it's a yes, and there's no question about it. So,
Well,
that's,
the code enforcement officer could come to the review board and say, here are several things that are coming up for abbreviated site plan review, and this is my recommendation. And then the review board can make a determination, right? Is that how that works now? That would seem normal to me.
Well, you don't have an abbreviated site plan yet.
Right.
Okay, well, in a land where abbreviated site plan review existed, would that be a normal thing to do?
It's you, well, because all applications go to the code enforcement officer. And they kind of say where it goes next. So the enforcement officer would look at it and say, yeah, that's an allowed use, but it needs abbreviated site plan. Off to the review board you go. And the purpose of the abbreviated site plan review is to allow the town to have some review in a shortened time period with a less involved set of submissions, and makes it much more efficient and quick. So the code enforcement officer gets it in the sense that they're the one that gets the applications, but I'm not sure that, I mean, they can make a recommendation if you want to put that in. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, that's
sure.
okay, and I'm just saying that seems like a likely way things would go.
Well, what,
Bill? Okay, now let's say Mark and Bill.
oh. Sorry, I'll just chime in to say the way our site plan review works now is stuff goes to the code officer and he sort of checks them off and then passes them on to the review board.
But with any comments or not?
I don't think so typically.
That's sort of.
He's just saying, yes, this is complete, sends it on.
Bill?
Okay, so yeah, just to repeat, so I think what the review board requested is that anything going through abbreviated site plan review be as simple as Nan sketched out. Are you 50 feet away from this or not? And I just don't think everything that needs abbreviated site plan review is that cut and dried.
Right.
But their request was that anything that was that be that cut and dried. So I agree that there needs to be a review board role in it. Sorry, review board. But we'll try to keep it simple.
Okay. Okay, so I think that, okay, so this is fine then. And is there anything else under abbreviated site plan review that we need to look at? It's about what else should be in here besides just water resources. That's something we're gonna look at. And how the board takes action. And groundwater and modifications and time extension. And that's the end of it. Okay, so it's like 9:32. We have finished this first review of Article 7. We're going to make changes in here in both the Word document and in this document that we agreed upon tonight, and I'm going to get rid of that screw up I made in there. I'm going to look up a bunch of things and write the minutes and refer back to the site plan review law and what it says now so that people will all know that. We're going to come again together next week when we're going to do, I hope, a final look at development on Route 79 and go on to looking at Article 7. And not Article 7, whatever the hell article is. It's
8.
It's 8. Yeah.
Well, but Gina, we're going to revisit some of these items from site plan next meeting or not?
Yes, we will.
Okay.
Now, a few things, you're gonna bring in some stuff, I'm gonna bring in some stuff, we'll look at those that are colored and calling out to us. So this is the first review, then we'll do the second review, and then that will be great. So everyone, please read again Article 8, make comments in there, and think about reading ahead onto the parts that are pretty bumpy. They're like, blah, 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 right? It's boilerplate in a lot of ways. One of the big issues I think we have is, should the review board be 5 or 7? The town board increased it to 7 not that long ago. That's a question that Nan brought to us. She said,
Oh,
the
should
review
the-
board can be 5 or 7.
Yeah, so, no, we increased the planning board to 7.
Oh, you increased the planning board to 7.
Yeah.
I read something recently.
Yeah.
But the review board has how many? on
I believe 5.
it?
Fine.
You have 5.
Yeah.
Okay, and are you happy with 5?
We haven't had a lot of meetings, but so far.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think that's a good number.
Yeah,
I-
great. Okay, because if you went to 7, some of us might be forced into servitude, and I'm kind of done. Yeah. Okay, so, that's all I have. Nan, anybody else have anything?
Yeah.
Yeah. We're gonna bring you a map.
Right, okay, but no, we wanted to look at the extending
Yes,
the east,
yes, we're gonna look at all of the commercial possibilities on Route 79 again. next week.
okay, and all this too, we're gonna just
Yeah,
try to figure,
all
okay.
that.
I'm not gonna be here next week.
Okay,
Nor am I gonna have time the week after that to really get into this, so. If we don't have to, we can defer the discussion of traditional commercial districts for another couple of weeks.
yes, we could do that. Why don't we do that?
I just,
That makes a lot of sense. Let's defer
Yeah.
that to
I
Article,
like that idea too.
let's do Article 7, or even, we could just do the bumpy parts. We could go on to Article 8 through 11 over the holidays and finish up a lot of bump until we get back. Let's do that. Let's,
Because I would just point out that Article 8, an awful lot of for all of the, there's very little that's, it's mostly boilerplate from state law. So the very last section of the special use permit are the criteria. Those are obviously things you want to pay special attention to, but a lot of this is boilerplate right from the state authorizing legislation.
great. So let's look at Article, I think it's 8, 9, and 10. And that's what gets you up to how to make amendments, and it is all quite bumpy, and I'm perfectly happy that we do that, and then we feel like fabulous, we got that done. Okay? Good.
I couldn't really hear what you were saying about what are we postponing? Is it?
The discussion
commercial-
of commercial districts, and I think also article the
Okay.
special use permits, since Ernie probably has more experience than any of us with dealing with special use permits. I think.
well. I think you,
Well, that's more than I have.
You got it.
Yeah, so I think you do.
But I thought that the section that the instead of pretty much what it is.
Is 7 boilerplate command? No, it's 8.
Special use permit. It's pretty much boilerplate, is what I heard Nan say. Is that right?
Yes, other than the conditions for special use permits.
Right.
Okay, so we'll look at 7, Article
8.
7, 8, excuse me, and then 9 and 10. Because those are all pretty much boilerplate, as I understand.
See that.
Yeah, great, we'll do that. And we'll postpone the decision about, the decisions about Route 79.
And that's next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday, we're meeting, and we're meeting the following Tuesday, and we're meeting the following Tuesday, until we, what would be fabulous is if we finish up on November 1st. Because we're not gonna be on November 8th because it's election day, and everyone has too many things to do that night. And we also got complaints about that from people. So we would have 3 or 4 more meetings, if we finish on November 1st, we might actually be done. I would.
No, I will point out that we will be having a public information meeting, I'm sure, about this latter half of the zoning plan. And then we will have to put together our final thoughts, have a public hearing on a zoning plan, and then put some thoughts together based on that public hearing before we submit a draft to the town board. So don't get too excited about just how few meetings are left.
Well,
Well, the public hearing, we don't make a presentation, right? We just listen.
Right.
Right?
Right.
But then we need to ponder and reflect and make any revisions based on that
Yes.
information.
Yes, we do. As well as, therapy. So. Okay, good. Let us adjourn. It is 9:37. Hearing no objection, we are adjourned.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everybody.
everyone.
Thank you.
Boy, do we all know how to have fun.
see if anybody's got candles in their nose, zoning.
Oh, gosh.
Huge.
I tried very hard to close my eyes and driving through Sable. I hope.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do that.
There you go.